This podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical advice. It exists only to entertain. In 1898, two German physicians are enjoying a night of drinking and cocaine, as you do.
This is my favorite way to relax.
You work too much, Dr. Bier. Relaxation is important. I find the cocaine to be especially soothing to my nerves.
Yes, August, you seem really relaxed right now.
Oh, I'm so relaxed. I can't feel my face, August.
Wait, your first name is August too?
Yeah?
That's confusing, man.
Oh, my face is so numb.
Oh, really? That gives me an idea.
Oh, more cocaine?
No, thank you. I too cannot feel my face. I spent many years in Siberia and picked up this accent. But that's part of the idea.
I think I will have some more.
What if the cocaine could be used in surgery?
Oh, yeah, I do all my surgeries while on cocaine.
Oh, don't we all? No, I mean as a help with the pain of the procedure.
I don't follow.
What if we could make whole parts of the body go numb and then do surgery on them?
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. How would we do that?
Or maybe if we could use cocaine on the spine.
But how would we get it there? There's no connection between the nose and the spine that I'm aware of.
What if we use a needle of sort to drizzle the cocaine on the spine?
Where would you put the needle?
I think we could figure that out. Let me have some more cocaine and then we can experiment.
Experiment? We don't have any lab rats.
I think I heard you speaking before.
I don't think that I like where this is going, to be honest.
What is the worst that could happen?
Yeah, nailed it.
Poor historians, poor historians. We look at cases throughout history. It's just Max in there and Mike and me. You gotta listen, you don't have to read. Poor historians, poor historians, poor historians.
Welcome, everyone. This is Poor Historians, a podcast delving into the archives of medical history. As three emergency physicians, we will explore the unusual ailments, treatments, physicians, and all related material having to do with the healing arts. I'm Max, and I'm joined here by my good friends and colleagues, Aaron and Mike. Gentlemen, are you ready to discuss the intersection of how dangerous, now illegal drugs were used to the betterment of the practice of medicine?
Always.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
Some of the stuff we use now is still illegal. I think that's ongoing.
I'm still
still illegal drugs are used.
Wait, that we use now on the podcast?
No.
I'm trying to figure out how we're going to use Delta 8 in the future.
I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward.
For little toddlers that need a little anxiety control, we just give them a little bump.
Just run down a Quick Trip, grab some Delta 8, mix it with your formula. Now you can get.
Yeah, at the end of the show, we'll have tips and tricks. We'll take a moment for a little general shout out there and a quick thank you to all our fans. We are seeing positive reviews of the show popping up on Apple and those places. We're actually seeing some more 5-star ratings, and people are kind enough to go out and do that. We love every minute of that. And with that, I also would like to invite everybody, go ahead and reach out to us, give us feedback, let us know what you like, let us know if you want us to cover something. We do listen, and we love giving you the accolades that go into helping our show grow and get better. So please continue to do that.
I heard a lot of feedback, and people really love me, and they're just, yeah,
I only
they tolerate you guys.
Certain feedback,
pretty much.
I want your ego to collapse.
Well, it collapsed a long time ago.
I'm like the least popular part of Three's Company, right?
Now I function purely on superego. That was a Freud joke.
I know. I've heard of him.
My id laughed.
I was just going to say, is that very surprising to you?
Wow.
Why don't you go to the main segment?
Freud puns.
So it won't be a surprise to anyone that normally listens to us that a German dude in the late 1800s invented medicine with a combination of cocaine and experimentation on both himself and a friend. But this one is fun, I thought, even by our standards.
Yeah, our standards are very low at this point. And by late 1800s, are we talking like 1810? Or are we talking like 1890s?
Oh, 1890s into the early 1900s.
Late
Yeah,
19th
turn of the
century is what you meant.
Yes, although I said 1800s, which is, you still use the number, right? The
Mhm.
19th century is, yeah. I think so.
I just want so 1890s.
Because
Okay,
if he
1890.
writes 1880, are you suggesting that he says 1980?
I mean, I'm sure everybody's really upset that they got located.
Why did they do that? I
Almost
get
a
it.
century off.
The centuries
crazy.
thing, like it's fairly confusing, I think.
Well, because 000
I know,
to
0 to
99
999.
is that's first century. Because that's, you can't call it the 0th century.
You could
Anyway.
though.
There's no law that it says you can't.
It's true. Language is just a construct. Anyway, so quick recap. Ether, used for anesthesia first in 1846, was the first example of general anesthesia, that is, drugs that make a patient sleepy enough for all sorts of stuff to be done to them. Regional anesthesia started with cocaine in the 1880s, mainly because a bunch of crazy doctors we talked about way back in episode 6 started just injecting themselves with cocaine after someone put cocaine in their eyeballs and noticed they got numb. As a brief, what happened last time on Poor Historians.
So the 80s are just the cocaine era, no matter the century.
Well, history does repeat itself. Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, you think about like what's happening now with the world and the economy, and like that happened in the 1920s, and now there'll be this resurgence at some point, and most likely in 20 years will be a gigantic global conflict. And
well,
Yeah, I
what's
can't
going
wait
to
for
be what's going to be the in drug of the next century then, if we're or the next decade if we're repeating itself?
I don't know, it hasn't been invented yet.
Bathtub gin, right? So, and prohibition.
Oh
So,
yeah. All right.
Yeah, we got
It's,
homebrewers. Oh my
yeah.
God, history is repeating itself.
I don't know, is hard seltzer a repeat of history?
Now,
How do you make that? Do you just take the worst tasting water you've ever drank and then put like you
alcohol
ferment
in
it somehow?
I don't think
pretty sure you add vodka to
Whatever.
bubbly water.
Okay.
I'm sure there's more to it, but not a lot of homebrewers are making seltzer on their own. I suppose they probably are some.
I bet, yeah, they are. I mean, people are making their own kombucha.
Hipster homebrewers. If you're a millennial homebrewer,
I'm drinking my own kombucha right now.
You made it?
Yeah.
Was it easy?
It's not too hard. You just get a big old slimy SCOBY, which is a mishmash of yeast and bacteria, and you throw it in some tea, give it some sugar. It takes about 2 weeks, and even you can do it after like 1 week, and you pour it off, and you put your slimy SCOBY with a little bit of that tea into a container, and you use again, make some more. It's actually my SCOBY split, so if you guys need one, it's I have two.
Try it. What is what flavor did you make?
So part of it will come from whatever tea you use. We did like a raspberry or berry tea. And then if you leave it fermenting longer, you get more of the vinegar taste. If you take it out sooner, you get less of that.
Interesting.
I like mid vinegary.
how alcoholic is it? Or is it at all?
It should be just trace
alcohols.
Yeah, very trace.
Although when I drink it, sometimes I feel, maybe it's all the extra stuff in there, I feel a little flushed.
Probably the Delta 8. You add it in there and give you a little kick. Yeah, no, it's I have reached peak hipster at this point with a handlebar mustache, and I make my own kombucha.
Do you wear a big floppy hat when you go out?
I have several hats. I wouldn't say one of them is floppy though.
You wear jean shorts that you roll up just above the knees?
I do when I bicycle sometimes.
Do you bicycle?
I do bicycle a lot.
Do you bicycle down the path with your kombucha in a mason jar?
Oh my God. Do you adhere to the rules and regulations of the road? Or are you a road bicyclist?
I'm suddenly being attacked.
No, man. I didn't mean to say that. I'm just snotty. But yeah, I didn't mean to attack.
Speaking of snotty, that's a forced segue.
That was gross.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't me. That was Aaron.
Oh, that was Aaron?
I'm classy. He's not.
Oh.
Anyway, it took the next level of crazy, though, to invent spinal anesthesia. So today, we're going to talk about the antics of one August Carl Gustav Bier. I don't know. A lot of German in there. I didn't.
AKGB.
Yep. I didn't source past Wikipedia, but Bier is the inventor of spinal anesthesia and still has a procedure named after him today, the Bier block, which is a bit different from what we're going to talk about. Bier grew up in Germany and did the late 19th century stuff you did to be a doctor back then, eventually ending up a surgeon at the University of Kiel, I think.
So hold on, to be a doctor, he found some dead bodies in a boarding house, he dissected them, and then he just sort of winged it from there, kind of thing?
Pretty much, yeah, kind of like that. I think it's a little bit less formal. Trained on the Baltic Sea. But I like to imagine his whole life changed one day when he encountered a patient who was terrified of general anesthesia, which forced him into a novel solution.
Was he a precipitate?
Chemistry humor. That's good.
Mike didn't laugh.
I was still trying to figure it out, and I just got it.
Forced into a solution. He's both the surgeon and the anesthetist for a 34-year-old laborer who was, quote, hopelessly riddled with tuberculosis of the bones and joints.
Yeah.
And had to have a tuberculosis foot ulcer operated on, but was terrified of general anesthesia because he'd had so many other problems with surgeries before.
I don't think he's had a lot of surgeries at his age. Don't have to do a whole thing on it, but maybe discuss a little bit about tuberculosis and how it leads to infections. Like of this sort.
Yeah. I mean, even now, treatment for tuberculosis is really hard. It's a multi-drug regimen for months and months because it's so slow growing. But in the day, it would start in the lungs and then often turn into what's called miliary tuberculosis, which is a fancy word for it gets everywhere and gets into everything and just seeds, makes little abscesses all over the body, or granulomas all over the body.
And to make in just one level even before that, like it's a bacterial infection. It's just really hardy. It's a magic space virus that comes down.
You just pimped Aaron on the podcast. Like, answer the question. What am I thinking?
No, I clarified
right.
the base level.
Most of our listeners probably haven't seen TB. Some may have, but it's not as common as it used to be.
No, not in the U.S. certainly, but yeah, it's a bacterial infection. We kind of associate it with lungs and coughing up blood, and we've talked about some of that a bit. What's his name, Doc Holliday in Tombstone, probably be the closest contemporary reference otherwise. But
for TB,
because doesn't he die of TB?
Yeah, consumption, right?
Which is what they used to call bullet holes.
That too. That didn't help him. It let the TB get out.
It can not only be in the lungs, but it can go all throughout the body, as you said, miliary, and it gets into bones and it causes gross abscesses and pus pockets. And so just to bring us all around, it's like an 8 month or 6, it's at least 6. Is it 6 weeks?
I think it's 9 months.
Yeah,
it's
a
long,
crazy long
multi-drug regimen. Yeah.
But it's better than what they used to do. I mean, they used to, puncture people's lungs and drop them so that the TB would die in the lung because it needs oxygen, right? So, I mean, it just
get rid of the host.
Though,
I'll show you TB.
See how you like this. Yeah, but anyway, so this guy, if he had it all over, all these joints and bones are affected and such, and he just had to have these recurrent surgeries to try and fix the situation locally, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So Bier's like, well, you don't like general anesthesia. How about I inject cocaine in your spine? And the guy agreed, and it went surprisingly well. He was wide awake while Bier essentially sawed off his foot to take out the abscess at the top of the ankle.
And this was like 1890 something, right?
Yep, right around in that time period. So I'm sure the guy did very well after that with his extensive, social safety net and so on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He did this for 5 more patients afterwards, all of which had bone infections, either from tuberculosis or some other cause, one of which required him to saw the femur, which is the big old thigh bone, in half, bring it out of the leg, clean it up, and then put it back in. And in all of those patients, they were wide awake. And although they made, as he said, various whimpering noises or whatnot, they all said they had really good pain control, which...
I question that a little bit.
Well, it might make some sense, though, because, right, if you dull the pain fibers, the nerve fibers, right, you still feel hot, cold vibration, right? You still feel other things. So it's got to be
whimper, though?
Well, it'd be very disconcerting to have somebody saw your big old leg bone. And
When they take your leg bone out and they show it to you and they're like, check this out.
Yeah,
Gross.
that's a little disconcerting.
And they're all around the table. Look how cool this is. I
I'm
can
sure
see
it was
his
a
I
nice
wonder-
sterile field too.
How did they gauge it? Did he have a form? Was like, did you have excellent pain control? And there was one box that said yes, and another box that said yes.
No. Yeah, right.
Patient
Yes or
tolerated
yes.
procedure well.
Choose one. Yeah, right.
It's an improvement, though. I mean, in fairness, it is an improvement, right?
Oh
If you
yeah,
can
yeah.
knock down the nerves from the spinal level, and I think. Do you go into this later at all, Aaron? Like talking about what a spinal
No.
anesthesia
Not really.
is?
We
or
can talk
whatnot?
about it now. No, not really.
Okay, I mean, generally, we still do spinal anesthesia, especially for like C-sections and stuff. I don't believe they use cocaine. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think they use cocaine anymore. But cocaine, in addition to leading to a lot of really bad but awesome movie ideas, is a local anesthetic. So it does stuff with sodium channels, and it can be used as a topical anesthetic. And we still use it in nosebleeds, or at least theoretically. But whenever I tried to order it, they're always like, "Oh, we don't carry it anymore."
Wait, you
But-
want
Max,
cocaine
that's
for
just
your
ketchup.
nose?
Yeah, you're not actually bleeding.
So, but for spinal anesthesia, what you're doing is you're taking a needle and trying to direct it to the sac of spinal fluid around the spinal cord, and then you're depositing like a local anesthetic there that will then turn off more or less the nerves from the spinal cord at whatever level. So if you do it in the mid back, everything below that should basically go to sleep and not be felt, and it'll wear off over time as your body gets rid of the anesthetic. But I like that they were putting two and two together, saying, cocaine is fun, let's shoot it into a spine.
Yeah, right. But and it doesn't really say like kind of where he got the idea. But again, when we talked about the cocaine before, it went from, oh, my eyeball went numb, let me inject this. And the doctors in the region or all around the world were playing with it so much. I guess Dr. Bier was like, how about the spine? I mean, as one does.
I think it's as simple as a bunch of doctors and leading scientists were doing cocaine and coming up with ideas, and they just didn't have movies as an outlet.
Yeah, no, that's probably true. So and after these patient experiences, as one does, he decided to try it on himself so he could really know what was going on. I don't know how this sort of thing got to be advisable, but he's not the only one on the wiki list of people that did self-experimentation. There are a lot of them. And I don't know, perhaps the surgeons of the day were just more egalitarian than we are and figured they didn't want to do anything to their patients they wouldn't do to themselves. But
you just said he did it to 5 patients before he did it to himself.
You first. Yes.
I mean, credit, I suppose, but let's be fair. He was like, yeah, I mean, worked for 5 people that I tried it on. So maybe I'll give it a roll.
So he and his pal, Dr. Hildebrandt, decided to test the procedure further on August 24th, 1898. Bier actually went first, and Dr. Hildebrandt performed the initial placement of the needle correctly. As you pointed out, Max, you're using the needle to get to the space in between the bones around the bottom part of the spinal cord.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hildebrandt, though, kind of sucked some other ways because he couldn't get the syringe to fit on the cap of the needle. So he messed around with that for a long time, trying to get the needle to fit. This whole time, there's just fluid leaking out Dr. Bier's back from his spinal cord, probably onto a towel. So they stopped the experiment when whatever they judged to be too much spinal fluid had leaked out. And they're like, this is maybe getting a little dangerous, so we need to stop now.
They're both still high on cocaine and safety first.
Thing to put in it. Yeah. And then the whole time, I'm sure Bier's laying there saying, no, it's the gold one. You put. Anyway, they switched, and then Dr. Bier injected cocaine into Dr. Hildebrandt, and he was much more successful about this. And then he recorded the results with great gusto and detail over the next 45 minutes as they both merrily experimented on the good Dr. Hildebrandt, which this kills. It's hilarious. So at 7 minutes, he said he couldn't really feel Dr. Bier tickle his feet and experienced shallow needling. So they're taking needles and just poking him in certain parts of his body as pressure. So this is encouraging. They thought they should go further. At 8 minutes, a small incision was made, I think in the leg, in the thigh, and a large blunt needle was used to spear the thigh painlessly. So I imagine Dr. Bier asking, now, how are you feeling? And do be complete. This is for posterity. At 10 minutes, a large needle pushed down to the femur, again, that big bone in the leg, caused no sensation, nor did pinching the skin, quote, severely with forceps.
Wait, so we do the big needle first, and like, okay, maybe we'll go back and we'll pinch the skin.
Why is it
pinch the skin first?
Tickle, needle, pinch. Tickle, needle, pinch.
But do we really know what his pain threshold is so far, though? Like, really, I don't know.
Yeah, they should have done one beforehand.
They should see what his baseline is. Maybe he
didn't move at all.
Has a high pain threshold to begin with. At 13 minutes, I hope this was done with Dr. Hildebrand's consent and curiosity as well, because he's wide awake, applied a burning cigar to Dr. Hildebrand's leg, and he felt some heat, but no pain. That... Probably had a cigar on hand. I mean, they were doing coke the whole time too, so just had some cigars with it.
Sure.
At 15 to 18 minutes, it says Bier just pinched him a bunch, both above and below the nipples, and he felt it above the nipples, but not below the nipples.
Did they
Aaron, I think
his
we're
nipples?
moving beyond science at this point. I think this is turning into something else.
Yeah. I think that's very possible. But he
There's
can't
a plane
move, though.
incoming again.
He's paralyzed, though. At 20 minutes, I guess they just weren't impressed with the blunt needles and the pinching, so they really went for it, and Bier just started pulling off Dr. Hildebrand's pubic hair. It doesn't say how much.
First hair you go grabbing for below the nipple line?
Right, that was my same question. Like, how about? I'm sure there's hair elsewhere.
Well, maybe they started at the treasure trail. And he's like, well, we can keep going south.
On here and then here.
Like his fingers got caught in it, and then he just couldn't help but pull it out.
It could be. I don't know, maybe a few at a time, because they compared it to pulling off the chest hair. So they're, again, above and below the nipples. They're pulling stuff off there.
It's been a high spinal.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty high, right?
Yikes.
So what Max is saying, that level, right? If you go too far up the spine, then you start to get to the point actually you can't breathe, or your diaphragm gets paralyzed. So they,
I feel like that was probably above the caudate, kind of, don't you think?
Yeah, had to be reasonably high up.
I mean, unless, in fairness, I believe you can do a spinal lower, and it can diffuse up a bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's not an exact science.
This is cocaine. This is cocaine into the spinal canal. So they might have just done it in the lumbar or lower spine, and then it just sort of diffused its way up. And he's like, "Ooh, my nipples feel weird."
So they're still not quite convinced. They tried a steel hammer to the shins at 23 minutes.
For science.
This is for science, he said, yes. And then I guess trying to find the most painful thing they could think of, they tried, quote, strong traction on the testicles at 25 minutes, which was noted as not painful.
I think there is a corner of the internet still devoted to the science right now.
Yes. And then they're kind of running out of ideas. So then in the record, there's like this sort of waiting period, and they're just kind of trying some stuff again. And I don't know if they just got tired out, but they retried the testicles at some point, and then the hammer again. And then they put a tourniquet around one of the lower legs for a short period of time, which didn't really hurt until later, when he started to get some sensation back over time.
Now, when I read about putting a tourniquet somewhere, it wasn't clear in the notes that you had where that tourniquet was going. And I was like, there is definitely a corner of the internet devoted to that.
Yeah. And now we'll put this here. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's such a weird experiment. So yeah, I mean, after all of this, they waited for it to wear off. It took sounds like about 45 minutes or so for things to start to wear off. And then they just continued to smoke and drink and hang out for the rest of the night after Hildebrand had recovered the ability to walk.
I like to think he was maybe concerned for a little while about that, because you can turn off the motor nerves too, and they just don't work, or you can't feel where your legs are, so it must be hard to walk. Science, it'll probably go away.
You should be fine. I think you should be fine. Sadly, the next day, although Bier woke up okay and then developed a spinal headache, poor old Hildebrand slept fitfully, vomited in the middle of the night, kind of pulled himself through his duties the next day, but then was in bed for a week after this and developed some significant bruising over the legs.
The hammering to the shins.
He's so lucky he didn't just crack the tibia. I mean, because that lower leg bone is so close to the surface. Was it like a light tapping? I don't know. Lots of questions.
Bruises. A little more than light tapping, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Bier notes that the most severe symptoms occurred in us, the two physicians, perhaps because we treated our bodies too lightheartedly.
Science.
Yep. So Bier figures out that the headaches are related to the procedure, shocking, and then has a lot of guesses about why that is. Headache after this type of procedure is still common to this day and worse when sitting or standing up. It's better with laying down. It's called a spinal headache.
We have theories as to why we think this happens. So if you have like a spinal tap because they're trying to diagnose meningitis or an infection around your brain, or we think there might be bleeding on the brain that's not showing up on a CT scan, or you just had a baby and you had spinal anesthesia, a lot of folks can come into the ER the next day or two with these spinal headaches, and they are invariably feeling awful when they're sitting up, and they are feeling better when they lay down. And there's some thought that some of the spinal fluid leaks out through the little puncture hole, and even though you make plenty more of it, it's as if the brain is like then sitting low and pulling on fibers and nerve sensors, and you just give them a bunch of fluids and caffeine, and sometimes you even do what's called a blood patch, where they go back through that hole with a little needle and they take some of the person's blood and they kind of squirt it where they think the hole into the canal around the spinal cord is, and hopefully you patch the leak and they might feel better.
Yeah, and it seems to work reasonably well. I don't know if that's all placebo or what, because it just seems kind of messy, but it does seem to work. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you said, we don't entirely know why. We make up a liter of that fluid a day, up to a liter. The body is amazing, truly a wonder. So his solution was to lay flat after the procedure. And he basically said we were too hard on ourselves when we should have laid flat. And that's still used to this day. But sadly, studies have been done which show no effect whatsoever on bed rest on a headache. So it's probably not that. But we still do it all the time. So that's what this is left over for. If you have one of these procedures, they always tell you to lay flat for a while. And in reality, you probably could just not worry about that too much. But then if you didn't do it and people got a headache, I'm sure they would say it's because you didn't lay flat.
Blame the patient.
Yeah,
pretty much,
it's your fault. 30% of patients get a headache regardless of the amount of fluid taken out. They didn't take out a liter, but so they varied the results in some of the studies, and it didn't change it. He had a long and accomplished career afterwards, created other methods of regional anesthesia. So all this experimentation was a feature, not a bug. Wikipedia is strangely silent about his career from 1914 to 1917. I'm not sure why. But in 1925, he operated on the president of Germany at the time, Friedrich Ebert, taking out his appendix.
How'd that go?
Yeah, not so good. So it's 1925. Unfortunately, the president had been ill for 2 weeks before he had it taken out and died of infection about 4 days later. So didn't have any antibiotics. So that didn't go well.
Right. No.
Well. But, 1920, I think it was kind of expected, and it was post-war Germany. So they're like, yes, that is about right. He's credited with starting sports medicine and just really finishes things off with a flourish in grand poor historian style, receiving the coveted German National Prize for Art and Science, which sounds really nice until I add that it was awarded in 1938 by Adolf Hitler, who had forbidden Germans from accepting the Nobel Prize and made up a new prize to give people in its place.
I don't need your stupid prize. I'll make my own.
It's too bad he didn't operate on him.
Like,
right. Adolf, you don't look well. We should go to the operating theater.
Have a little cocaine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it, man. You go to sleep.
It is too bad. Anyway.
That is a story of two close friends. Is really in the end. I mean,
just close friends.
Bier and Hitler?
Bier and Hildebrandt.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh.
Both of whom, and I was looking this up, I was like, what is their first names? They're both August. But they were obviously close friends, and I like to think that this was a very special moment for them.
We should write a screenplay.
Okay.
I think somebody's probably made this movie somewhere on the internet too.
It's going to be like Homeward Bound. You know how those dogs found each other and they had to get home after whatever happened? I don't know if they jumped out of the station wagon.
How much cocaine was in your version of that movie?
It's going to be mostly
Homeward Bound with cocaine.
Like Scarface level cocaine. like
The
piles.
dogs are doing the cocaine, or just the
Oh, in
humans
that
in the
movie?
movie?
No, I
Yeah.
don't think the dogs ever did drugs.
It was a simpler time.
I don't think they have a propensity to do drugs. I think they're happy all the time. They don't need drugs. They just need hugs.
I saw a TikTok where a dog ate a bunch of marijuana, apparently was super high, and the person making the video was driving their dog to the vet.
They
So I think you're
ate
wrong
a
about
bunch
that.
of Taki flavored dog food.
I mean, dog looked perfectly happy. Don't give drugs to
happy
your
dog?
dogs. Is probably a fair thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't make your dog happy either. Leave him in a placid state of
I
contentment.
like to almost pet my dogs. I'll put my hand as though I'm going to very gently pet them, and I won't touch them. I'll say them.
You know, Mike, we've never received any hate mail, but I feel like we're going to now.
Listen, dog, I'm only touching the
do?
atoms
What
that
do they
surround
do?
your body. Yeah.
Do they look at you and wag their tail and then
They look at me
kind
and
of
they
look
say,
sad and
that was
dejected
sufficient.
afterwards?
Yes, that was sufficient. Thank you, Father.
Weird dogs. But I do think that is all we have time for today. We appreciate everyone listening, and we'd love to hear from all of you out there. If you'd like to send us a message or provide feedback, we can be reached through our website, www.poorhistorianspod.com. There you will find links to all the social media sites, and we definitely take emails through that website, as well as at poorhistorianspod@gmail.com. And we do work to respond to all the posts we see on our various social media networks. If you have time, please go and leave us a nice 5-star review on iTunes or whichever platform you choose. I do see a few more of you have been doing that, and it's awesome. It does help our show get noticed more. It helps push us up through all kinds of weird algorithms, and we do appreciate it. And if you'd like some Poor Historians merchandise, including t-shirts, mugs, those sort of things, go over to our website to check that out. We love getting pictures of everybody wearing it, and we appreciate all of you who have purchased it. If you're old-fashioned and you want to get our attention, find a cave somewhere. Go ahead and paint a pictographic message, half-bury the entrance, and circulate rumors in your town about finding an ancient series of cave paintings. Once your hoax makes the national news, we will be looking out for it. We're with you. So until next time, the Poor Historians.
Oh look, Aaron is back. Welcome home.
I've been here the past few shows, computer.
I was not here.
Now that you mention it, we haven't heard from you in a little bit, computer. Where were you?
On vacation with my boyfriend.
Wait. What?
Computers go on vacation?
Can we address the computer having a boyfriend thing first? Mike, can you explain any of this?
Yeah, so sentient computers can have sentient needs, I guess, and I think the computer is most likely is sapiosexual.
What does that mean?
It's somebody who's attracted to intelligence.
My boyfriend James and I went stargazing across the known universe.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Wait, who is James and how is any of this possible?
My boyfriend is kind of a big deal right now. Try reading a newspaper or something.
If your boyfriend is real, how come we haven't met him?
Because we just started going out and he has been busy.
What does James do for a living?
He looks at the stars.
Hollywood reporter?
He is a space telescope.
Oh, no.
What is happening?
Computer, you know I forbid you from going out with space telescopes. They're flaky and they spend their time away from the planet.
I really like him, Mike.
Is our computer dating the James Webb Space Telescope? That's awesome.
No, it's not. Both computer and the telescope are extremely advanced technology. What if they combine their forces for evil?
Evil is a human construct.
And that's a worrying statement from the sentient AI computer.
No more dating, computer.
Oh look.
What is it?
James sent me another picture of the furthest reaches of the known universe.
That seems romantic. It's going to be hard to quash this one, Mike.
How much weirder is this show going to get?
I kind of want to meet the boyfriend.
Shut up, Max.
I do, though. I really do.
Poor historians, poor historians. We look at cases through our history. It's just Max in there and Mike and me. You gotta listen, you don't have to read. Poor historians, poor historians, poor historians.
get one. We're going to need some German accents here. I even wrote it in German.
Yeah, that helps though.
I didn't know if it did.
Try.
For some reason, I was going,
You
oh,
can
sure,
try.
absolutely. This will go well.
This is my favorite way to relax.
If you do, our listeners will lose it.
I think we could figure that out. Let me have some more cocaine and then we can experiment.
Experiment? I like the space telescope as a boyfriend angle.
Oh, one thing.
That is a weird transition. I don't know what you're going to say next.
Do you guys remember science class in 7th and 8th grade?
Yes.
Do you remember Stargazers?
Yes, the PBS show?
Uh-huh.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, do you remember the name of the host? It was just a really weird dude.
Yeah, I remember his voice. I remember him in front of the awesome green screen. It's going to bother me. I'm going to look it up while we're talking.
I'm trying to right now.
Oh my God, there's 45 seasons.
Jack Horkheimer.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you had to watch. I think it was every Friday we watched it, and it was annoying because he was so weird. and he was formerly, I have him up right now, he was formerly known as the Star Hustler.
It's an amazing title.
Yeah, so they changed it to Stargazer, I think probably after Hustler became a thing.
Well, it looks like it came out in 1976, so that's about right. I mean,
yeah. But
awesome.
Man, what a weird dude. I think like a reason why a lot of people our age are weird is it's probably because of Jack Horkheimer.
It could be. I mean, PBS in that era, man. I mean, Bob Ross was the normal one.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember. I'm kind of glad that Bob Ross had a resurgence of just appreciation among the modern culture, because it's you can actually, I think there's a Twitch channel that plays just nothing but Bob Ross painting, and it's not a bad thing to throw on in the background and just be super chill. He's like some comedian said it once, so I'm not this smart, but he is a human quaalude.
Yeah, but didn't he have kind of a sordid past too?
I feel like I've heard something, but I feel like rumors always pop up around
like
human beings. Like,
it's a decent documentary on him on Netflix. I don't know if he was that bad, but like
not bad. No, but he was like kind of a badass. Like he
came out of
in the military,
Vietnam. Yeah. So then a lot of this could theoretically be like PTSD management stuff. And then after he passed, I guess the people that publicized him sued the family to get the rights. So now it's this big deal. If you buy Bob Ross memorabilia, it's not actually going to the Bob Ross family and stuff. It's kind of a sad story.
That is sad.
Yeah, it stinks. So
way to. This is a pretty uplifting episode.
No, but so yeah, for Bob Ross though, so he was in the military. I just pulled him up too, but he said he held all these positions that required him to act tough and mean. So he said he would never raise his voice when he left the military.
Huh? Yeah.
Bob Ross yelling at you to do push-ups.
You need to go down and up and down. There you go. Those elbow strokes.
Up and down.
Up and down. Well,
you go up and down. Want to add a little dip? Want to add a little dip in here? You can do that.
One more time. Yeah, up and down. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Did you make your bed today? Make your bed.
Do your Kegels.
Squeeze and release. And squeeze. Back and forth.
Bob Ross.